I really want the greater Wenatchee Valley to know what's going on. You know, I guess I'm not scared. I guess I know that everything I'm talking about is true.
I left because of a pervasive, systematic devaluing of women at the college, and specifically women of color. I left because really horrible decisions were made that put women in danger while being there.
Wenatchee Valley College is a two-campus public community college located in central Washington state. In a months-long special investigation, NCWLIFE spoke with 6 women who have previously worked or currently work at the institution. The women spoke of harassment by male colleagues, lack of action by leadership, and a toxic work environment that's driving women and people of color away from the campus. They say some of those who've left, including themselves, would have stayed if not for the college's culture. It's culminated in a $5 million lawsuit from one of its own professors accusing WVC of fostering a hostile work environment. The stories included in this report are also guided by public records obtained by NCWLIFE. This is Campus Crisis: Harassment at Wenatchee Valley College. The list Sandra Villarreal kept was originally a mental one. She had been the director of TRIO's Student Support Services at the college since 2021. The grant-funded program helps 140 students navigate college each year. She left her position in September. While working at the college, she noticed departures among staff and faculty. She began keeping a list, which eventually grew to 57 people. 49 of the people on her list were women or people of color, and the list kept growing.
Some of those were positive departures, like they did go on to get better jobs or they wanted to move and leave the area. But a lot of times their narrative or their experience was not quite so positive. I was like, wow, we're just really burning through people here.
Huge portions of people who have real institutional knowledge have left in the last year. We're talking about people who are from this community, who have grown up in this community, who would have stayed and worked at Wenatchee Valley College for our entire careers.
I had to grieve for a really long time over losing teaching because I really, it was so hard to get a tenure track job. And I knew I had worked very hard and I'd gotten very lucky.
We're losing a lot of really talented individuals, and some of those individuals, it's a direct result of a toxic work environment. That's not what we are being told, of course. The way that I perceive how we're supposed to understand this is that they're just moving on to other opportunities.
Since January 2023, nearly 100 employees have left the college. NCWLIFE asked how many of those who've left were women or people of color, but never received a response.
When there is turnover, we can't just stop doing the job or put responsibilities on hold because paperwork still needs to get processed and enrollments and classes and things like that. So those responsibilities were picked up by other staff. That's a lot because they have their specific role and then they're taking on additional tasks, oftentimes without compensation.
The ones that end up paying the price, I think, at the end are the students, because they lose teachers and instructors and administrators that really care about making a difference. The women that I know have left are amazing educators, and they decided to go somewhere else because they needed to take care of themselves. I needed to take care of myself. When the institution is not open about what they are going through and the changes that they need to make, the ones that end up paying the price are going to be the students, because they are not going to receive the best service that they have. I mean, representation is important, right? You cannot imagine to become someone you can't see. The message that we are sending our students, I think, when we see so many women leaving is that their experience is not important.
In a 2016 disciplinary letter sent to biology professor Steve Stefanidis, Vice President of Instruction Carly Schiffner called the dysfunction of the WVC Science Division an institution-wide crisis. Schiffner said the work environment is rife with incident reports, ugly, unprofessional verbal exchanges, continued questioning of others' professional credentials and teaching activities, email diatribes with veiled threats, and character assassinations. 8 years later, science professor Bobby Johnson is suing the college for $5 million for alleged gender-based discrimination, harassment, and retaliation she's faced while at work. Much of the harassment came after she filed a Title IX complaint against Stefanidis. According to claims in Johnson's lawsuit, the full-time permanent faculty in the WVC Science Division has been mostly white men from at least 1998 until the summer of 2023. Currently, Awanthi Hewage is the only female full-time permanent faculty member in the Science Division. Over the years, other professors in the department included Stefanidis, biology professors Dave Bennett, Rob Fitch, and Dan Stevens, chemistry professor Shane Hendrickson, and physics professor Bruce Unger. Karina Vegavia started work at WVC in 2015 as an adjunct professor of chemistry and biology. In 2018, she founded the MESA program, which supports statistically underrepresented students like women and racial minorities who want to pursue STEM degrees.
When we mentioned that we could consider hiring more faculty of color, women, the other comment that was made is that we can bring them as adjunct faculty. That's what adjunct faculty positions are for. And the comment that was made in the meeting was that that would be a diversity hire, right? Implying that they would be hired not necessarily because they are qualified, but because they would check a box.
Tenure for a professor means stability. Tenured professors have more academic freedom and job security. Adjunct faculty are part-time.
It was very clear. It was made very clear that as an adjunct faculty, I had no say. That was said during the division. So yeah, I was not, it was made very clear that I was welcome to participate, but that my opinion would not matter.
Bobby Johnson's 2019 Title IX complaint against Stefanidis detailed his frequent visits to Johnson's office beginning in the 2018 school year. Vegavia, who was Johnson's supervisor, told Stefanidis to stop visiting Johnson, but he didn't and continued to visit her in the evenings. After Johnson became a full-time temporary faculty member, her lawsuit says Stefanidis went to Johnson's office unannounced and accused her of receiving her faculty appointment due to Vice President of Instruction Todd Treat's, quote, romantic interest in her. The lawsuit says that although Johnson reported this incident to supervisors, Stefanidis was not disciplined, and instead, Johnson's office was moved from Wenatchee Hall to the Eller Fox building. Even after Johnson's relocation, visits from Stefanidis continued. An internal investigation into her complaint concluded Stefanidis' behavior did not violate Title IX, which is a federal law that prohibits gender-based discrimination in educational institutions that receive federal funds. A statement by Johnson said that she was advised to change work assignments to avoid contact with him and to avoid teaching in isolated locations in the evening. When Johnson was appointed by then WVC President Jim Richardson to a tenure-track position on the OMAC campus in April 2021, her lawsuit says Stefanidis filed a union grievance seeking to reverse Johnson's appointment. Dave Bennett later joined the effort. According to her lawsuit, Johnson's male colleagues would also file public records requests with the college for information relating to Johnson's personnel file. In September 2021, when Johnson should have been beginning her first quarter as a tenure-track professor, she was on medical leave due to the impacts from the hostile work environment. Stefanidis and Bennett filed a complaint with the Washington State Executive Ethics Board alleging former Dean Holly Bringman, Heather Ryan, who was union president, and Vice President Todd Treat misused their positions to create an opportunity for Johnson to be hired to a tenure-track position.
I've never been accused of anything so serious. And it honestly, I think this is why I left, is because I felt like I had tried to do good things and that they had taken those good things and and use them against me.
Johnson would eventually relinquish her tenure-track position after her superiors told her they would not be able to keep her or others safe in the division. Following her decision, the entire tenured OMAC faculty sent a letter to WVC administration reporting Stephanitis and Bennett for bullying and harassment. After the fall 2021 quarter, Stephanitis and Bennett were placed on administrative leave. The Executive Ethics Board determined Stephanitis and Bennett's ethics complaint to be, quote, obviously unfounded or frivolous, and it was dismissed in March 2022.
I mean, I just broke down and cried, like relief, utter relief. You know, when I'm telling people this story about what happened, I describe what happened to me as like I was collateral damage. I don't think that Steve and Dave set out necessarily to harm me, but it was fine to them if I was harmed. It affected the course of my life forever.
WVC hired a third-party investigator, Spokane-based principal attorney Janae Ball, to review multiple complaints regarding gender discrimination, age discrimination, bullying, abuse of grievance in Public Records Act processes, and retaliation. Ball substantiated claims that there is a culture of gender discrimination by the male faculty against the female faculty in the science division, and that Stephanitis and Bennett made racially discriminatory comments about faculty. Ball also concluded that Stephanitis' grievance regarding Johnson's tenure-track appointment was retaliation for her 2019 Title IX complaint against him. After the findings, Stephanitis and the college agreed to a settlement. Stephanitis retired on August 21st, 2023, and the college paid him $315,000. Bennett returned to WVC as a science professor in summer quarter 2023. It would only take him a few months before biology lab manager Jenny Espeleta filed a Title IX complaint against him. At the time, Espeleta was reporting biology professor Rob Fitch for discriminatory behavior. An investigation, which was completed by a Spokane-based law firm, concluded that Fitch called Espeleta demeaning names, made discriminatory jokes, and interfered with her ability to get a teaching job in the science division. According to Espeleta's Title IX complaint, Bennett tried to coerce fellow science professor Dan Stevens into denying Fitch was targeting and sexually harassing women during the investigation. Administrators relocated Fitch and Bennett's offices, classrooms, and laboratories out of the third floor of Wenatchee Hall after Espeleta reported Fitch for discrimination and harassment and Bennett for, quote, aiding and abetting his behavior. The two men were also directed to not be on the third floor of Wenatchee Hall without an escort. Fitch is still a professor at WVC, and Espeleta left the college in January. Espeleta has filed 2 equal employment opportunity complaints since she left the college, with the most recent one filed in June. She and Johnson did not interview with NCWLIFE for legal reasons. The male professors named in this report did not respond to requests for comment from NCWLIFE, with the exception of Dan Stevens, who told NCWLIFE he thought the division had a culture of racial and gender-based discrimination. Stevens retired in June. Allegations of harassment and inaction by leadership at Wenatchee Valley College weren't limited to its science division.
There is a contingent of supervisors that aren't very civil to some of their employees. And there's been some complaints around that, and nothing's really been done.
Vice President of Instruction Todd Treat came to Wenatchee Valley College in 2018 under then-President Jim Richardson. Both former English professor Heather Ryan and former Associate Dean Aaron Tofty told NCWLIFE they reported Treat's behavior to college administration.
So I made a complaint against Dr. Todd Treat, the Vice President of Instruction, for screaming and yelling at me around a union matter that I felt was, like, one, just really inappropriate, and two, like borderline illegal, because I was a union president and we were talking about, union business. He was really trying to get me to violate the contract. It was so extreme that it gave me a panic attack. He lost his temper kind of frequently, and it would kind of go up to the level where I'd be like, this feels inappropriate.
Famous Harrison became president of WVC in 2023 after Richardson retired. Harrison appointed Todd Treat to an interim role overseeing student services while also maintaining his role as vice president of instruction.
I was in a meeting with Dr. Harrison and probably 20 other people, the leadership for student services, and I specifically said to Dr. Harrison, if you put Todd Treat in this position, many of us women in this room will leave the college because we do not feel comfortable and safe with this person. There were many instances that people at WVC recently and still continuing had complaints forward about him. Somebody who had harassed women on campus, had yelled at women on campus. He got defensive and said back, well, I'm not going to judge someone on past actions. So either Dr. Harrison, when he came, was not made aware of those by HR, or chose not to care that that was currently the experience of the women leaders in that room.
We're in a union, and so we have a collective bargaining agreement, so that's our contract that we work under. The contract is between faculty and administration, and if we believe that the administration has violated the contract, then we can file a grievance.
Math professors Karen Keyes, Branwyn Schaub, English professor Janet Goodyear, and science professors Awanthi Hewage and Bobby Johnson jointly filed a grievance after learning Bennett had been reinstated to teaching at WVC.
And basically what we were grieving was what we considered administration's failure to maintain a safe work environment and to maintain a system of accountability.
The grievance asked the college to comply with all provisions of the union contract, like creating a workplace free from harassment and discrimination and properly investigating claims of harassment and discrimination. The group also asked for an externally developed, campus-specific training for administration and human resources, and for an administrator to be present at science division meetings. Vice President of Instruction Todd Treat responded to the grievance by saying the college has taken each claim of harassment, discrimination, and workplace conduct seriously, but agreed on oversight of the science division meetings.
They agreed to have training, except we asked for training of HR and the administration by a third party, and they said that HR would provide training to the whole college. And that doesn't really address our issue, because we actually think HR is part of the issue.
Yeah, like HR is like a joke.
I would say that the general impression of HR was that it was a joke.
They seem to be more of a problem than an assistance. Like, that's almost the joke. It's like if you go to HR, you're going to get referred to the website.
Regan Bellamy became the Executive Director of Human Resources at WVC in 2008. The department consists of 2 HR consultants, 1 assistant, and a payroll coordinator. Bellamy's position made her a member of the President's Cabinet, and she served as the college's Title IX coordinator and public records officer, both positions required under state and federal law. Heather Ryan went to Human Resources to report Vice President of Instruction Todd Treat for screaming at her over a union matter.
And I said explicitly to the HR director, Regan Bellamy, I want you to investigate this. And she had said, well, if you don't want me to tell Todd it was you. And I said, I am not afraid of Todd. Tell him it was me. I felt like they were hinting that they were going to take the complaint but not do anything with it. So it was like going to go into a file somewhere. It felt like it was going to get swept under the rug.
If you did go forward to HR, most likely nothing was going to happen, or worse, you would then end up being treated differently because you had come forward. And so there was absolutely no trust in HR. It got to the point where people just wouldn't take things to HR.
HR, of course, does have and the administration, they have the ability to say, wow, that's the 4th complaint that so-and-so has said about someone. Maybe let's investigate.
Along with the Title IX coordinator, college campuses are required to have Title IX investigators.
I was a Title IX investigator, and I saw the ways in which certain complaints that would come forward would get attention, others wouldn't. The HR director would kind of pick and choose whether it was somebody who they, liked and supported versus somebody who they didn't, instead of just following protocol and the rules. There were times when an investigation was done, and instead of coming at it from a place of let's figure out what actually happened, it was coming at it from a place of, oh, I know this guy and he's really nice and he would never, do something like that.
It felt like the primary goal of HR was to smooth over and make it appear that they hadn't done anything wrong, as opposed to, try to find out what happened and take care of it.
with Dr. Harrison, coming to be our new president, we were really hopeful that he would be more engaged and would take more of a leadership role as far as making decisions at the college. But that hasn't really panned out.
It's like we all work so hard to serve our students, but then we're not being supported or served or protected by our offices, our administration.
Harrison, Todd Treat, and Regan Bellamy did not agree to be interviewed for this report.
I'm worried about the health of our institution, and I'd like to see that. I'd like to see us be the version of ourselves that I know that we can be.
I think the public needs to know that the college is in crisis and that many of their community members who were longtime employees have chosen to leave. And I think it's so important that we don't just sweep that under the rug and let people say it's because they had other opportunities or they wanted to do something else. No, many of us never wanted to leave the college, and it was heartbreaking for us to do so.
I want it to become a safe place. There are some people that need some discipline to happen, right? They need to know that what they're doing is not acceptable and in a real way.
I feel like the community, if they understood, they would make the college have to be more responsible. That would be my hope, right? Like, I want the college to exist for these students. I want the college to be a place where people can come in and earn a degree and get a better job. I want all of those things.
I wanted to be able to tell the families that I know, yes, send your kid to the college. And at the time, I could not recommend them to send them to the institution that I was working in, because I wouldn't have felt okay recommending that to someone and then knowing that their kids wouldn't have a good experience. So the community needs to know so that the college can be accountable. There is enough people working there that can make the college a great space. And it starts with accountability.